Hi, I'm Steve Lachance with Maine Real Estate Today, and I'm here with my co-host, Hailey Lebel. Hailey, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm glad to see you again. And today we're going to be talking about home buyers, particularly first-time home buyers. But we just had a great course that we want to talk about. And Hailey, why don't you tell them? Because you really put a lot of effort into this, and it was so successful.
Thank you. We just did a first-time home buyer course at my office this past Saturday on just the home buying process and everything with that in the market, the do's and don'ts, and just pure education for people who came. Yep. And it went so well. We had an amazing turnout. We had 17 people. We only had 2 seats open. So I wanted to fill the room so bad, but it was a great goal. I didn't hit it, but I did definitely execute fully. It was an incredible course.
I've been doing this so long, and I've done these all the time, and so many times you get these courses going, and you get half the room that shows up.
Yeah, and so to have almost a full room was honestly an amazing experience in itself, especially with it being my first home buyer course that I've put on.
That was your first?
That's my first one.
No, okay, you would not have known this was her first, all right? I'm just saying.
Thank you. But we had so much feedback. I mean, we had amazing reviews from people who were there, and everybody who was there was engaging. They were interacting, which was an even better experience because it's tough to get yourself ready to talk to people in front of people for 2 hours. It's kind of, you have to prepare yourself mentally. Like, okay, you're going to sit here. You're probably going to be judged the whole time by people who are looking at you, but nobody really cares that you're just all in your own head and having to get past that and just doing it. And we had a lot of great feedback.
And you're a lot like me too, which I love, because I will not sit in front of a PowerPoint presentation. I do not, if you put me in front of another PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to run screaming out of that room. I can't just send me the PowerPoint. I'll read it myself. I don't need somebody to stand there and read it to me. And you were brilliant because you really know your stuff. And I'm not just saying that because I do this a lot. And I've seen so many times where we're sitting there and I have to teach the class.
Yeah.
Or I have to really keep re-engaging, or I have to have handouts where it keeps everybody interested. Yeah. That was not the case here. Hailey's able to talk fluently with first-time home buyers, and even there was some experienced buyers in that course as well.
And the experienced buyers, they even said that they learned so much too. So there is so much to be said in that, because there is so much within the buying process that to have somebody who's done it before say, I learned so much and I've done this before, that just goes to show that it doesn't matter what point you're at in the buying process. It is always a great idea to educate yourself and go to the source and attend these events, because we're putting them on for the consumers.
That's right.
That's what we're doing it for. So
and we had some great sponsors that were there as well. Georgia and Baldacci.
Yep, and then we also had Tailor to Post, Contractors, the Lachone team. Michael Lachone and Linda Lachone were there. They were great. They were amazing.
They were great. Everybody I really like working with them too. Yeah. The comfort level, typically when somebody comes in there and start talking about inspections, or we talk about movers or title companies, and it's not very riveting.
No.
This was actually interesting. I learned a couple of things from from Mike. I think it was Mike, right? The home inspector.
And people who attended loved it too. And then also Christine Dudley, she killed it when talking about title for Georgia and Baldacci. I mean, she did an amazing job explaining things that are really hard to explain, because title is never, ever this cookie cutter situation.
Well, I liked her style because she used some real world examples that she's going through right now, so you can actually understand. Okay, what do I care? Isn't that just something you guys take care of? Yeah. Yeah, but why? If you don't know why am I spending money on owner's title insurance? Yeah. I can tell you why. You listen to some of the stories.
Yeah. Well, that, and just like knowing that if somebody is pushing you against title insurance, you need to run.
That's a big one.
You need to run. And, for those who are listening, the point of title insurance is to protect you and the title that you hold on that property. And I'm going to keep it short because it's just a very complicated thing. But basically, it is the equivalent of car insurance or homeowner's insurance. You might never, ever in your lifetime have to use it. But if you do have to use it, you are covered. And you are not having to come up with thousands upon thousands of dollars in attorney fees. Right. So for the one-time fee that it is, which is like between, I think, $300 and $600, it is more than worth it.
Yeah, we don't want to turn this into a title insurance commercial, but I can tell you that I had a particular example with a house I bought years ago, back in the late 90s, about 3 years after I purchased it. I think I mentioned this in the class, too, that I had the city of Westbrook had some clerical errors on back taxes, and I got an $8,800 bill for taxes due on the property, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And thank God, title insurance took care of whatever. Yep. I don't even know what they did. They just took care of it. No going to court, no fighting it. It was all taken care of.
And more often than not, you don't even know that you're buying it because it's worked into your closing costs.
Yep.
But I have had situations arise where the lender has advised a buyer to not get it because there's no point in it to save for a few bucks.
Yeah.
Well, then what happens 2 years from now when somebody who comes in claims ownership on your property, and now you're like, well, I should have bought that title insurance.
Well, it's one of those things that it's a fee that that's rare that you're going to have a problem, but when you do, it's not a small problem.
No, it's a very expensive problem. Like it's enough to make you probably go bankrupt.
It costs the house of anything at the very least.
Yeah.
And
so
again, without getting too far into title insurance, that Truorgy and Baldacci did an amazing job.
She did amazing.
with and that's Christina.
Christine Dudley.
Christine Dudley.
Yeah. Amazing
job. The home inspection portion of this was so much more informative. So how do you typically find these great vendors? How do you?
So I kind of met Michael Lacombe when I first got my license. I was originally with Fontaine team in Lewiston, and I was being mentored by a couple of the agents there, and in that mentor I had asked to go view houses with them, and I was there when he put one under contract, and so I attended the inspection with them. That is how I first met Michael Lacombe, but I also know his daughter, who is also in the real estate industry as well, and we just kind of stayed connected, and he showed his worth from the beginning, and he adapted extremely well to the changes that COVID brought, as well as just the insane market that we had with, how can you still allow your buyer to have an inspection while also remaining the most appealing offer to the seller.
Yeah, that's
and he was great with that, and timelines and same-day reports and 3D reports for when your buyer can't be there.
Yeah.
So the buyer feels like they're there because of his reports, even if they couldn't be there. So he's been top notch in that.
Got it. So I asked you the question of how do you find them, because I kind of knew the answer anyway from your class, because you vet them.
Yeah.
You make sure that your referral, and which is what I really like, because I just had somebody refer a contractor to me. Another no-show. I don't know how many times I've had no-shows on contractors. And stop referring people to us. Don't just give me a number because you have a phone number for somebody. Are they actually really good? Will they show up? What was your experience like? And I know that's what you look for before you refer people out.
Well, and we spoke on this at the course too, and it's also, there is so much value to be had in having a lender and a realtor in your corner, even after the sale has closed, because if you need anything, a plumber, electrician, we have people in our back pockets who we've worked with, who we vetted out. So like you said, again, that vetting out process is so important, because we're not just sending you anybody.
Right.
We're sending you people that we know, that we trust, that will get the job done.
Yeah.
And that's why our referrals matter too so much, is because when I refer somebody to a client or a past client, that referral has my name on it.
Yeah.
So how that referral carries themselves and does business matters. You have to operate with integrity and honesty and a good work ethic to get my referral in the first place, because that is how I work and operate. And I have the same expectation for somebody who I refer for anything else, whether it is a kitchen renovation, a bathroom renovation, electrical work, plumbing, whatever it might be. That's super important to me.
It reflects on our business. And that's the worst thing I can do is someone ask me, who's a good insurance company to use? And in Maine, you can use anybody you want for homeowners insurance. But I will make recommendations if I know they're good. But there's nothing worse. You give that referral out and, hey, they haven't gotten back to me yet.
Yep.
Oh, that's the last one you'll
and there are also industries that don't require any kind of licensing. So that's what's even more important to have that person be vetted out, because you don't know who they are.
So in Maine, if you're a first-time home buyer, a general contractor does not need a license to build a house.
No.
You got to have one to cut hair.
Yeah.
But you can build
and to sell a house.
And to sell a house.
And to appraise a house.
I would hope so, yeah.
Provide the funds for lending for a house.
You can build an entire... Now, to be fair to contractors, they do not have to be the one... They cannot be the one doing the licensing type stuff, such as electrical and plumbing and heating and things like that. But to build to actually orchestrate something so
Yeah.
important, no license.
But on the flip side, I also know some truly incredible builders
Sure.
who are not licensed too. So
Well, you don't need it in Maine, so
no,
I would agree with, yeah.
On that aspect, on that industry specifically, it doesn't. It matters, but it doesn't. It depends on the person, 100%, and their work ethic. I don't want to say it doesn't matter because it does. Like inspectors, they don't require certification, but you want them to be certified.
I found that interesting when we were talking about that in the class, that a home inspector could be anybody.
Yeah.
Really just, I now have a name tag that says I'm a home inspector.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary. But that's what we thought was great about Mike with Pillar to Post, because they get certified.
It's eye-opening, and it really is. And I mean, that was honestly, of that course, the most used word in the reviews were extremely educational and eye-opening.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is so much to be known that is not known.
Right. So how do we do on the lending side of the education portion?
So good. So good. And honestly, you opened that door for people to start inquiring and feeling excited about applying for that pre-qual, and knowing we were very much, and I'm very adamant on the idea that start before you're ready. Start before you're ready, because you don't know what you need to do. And there is so much misinformation out there. People will say, get your credit right, which is, yes, it's important, and pay down debts, but you want to pay down the right debts. And this was one of the things that I had said in this course that a lot of people, it stuck with them and they were shocked, was that do not pay off debt.
Right.
Before you get pre-qualified for a house, do not do it unless your lender specifically says, hey, pay this debt off to get pre-qualified. Because the problem that happens is that, say that you have a credit card that you have had open for 5 years now, you made payments on time, and you currently have $1,000 of debt on that credit card, and you decide to pay that debt off and close that debt because you don't need it anymore, you don't want it, you think it's going to put you in a better spot. It doesn't, because when you close off that line of credit, you lose the entire history of those long-term on-time payments.
The history will be there for it, but what it's going to age out over time. And what will actually also happen is you change the proportion of balance now. So proportion of balance simply means that if you have a credit card with $1,000 available and you have $500 on it, you now have a 50% utilization on that card. The algorithms also look at the length of time and how often you use it, things like that, to hurt you or help you. But if you use them responsibly, keep it open and slightly active, then that's where you're going to get your maximum number of points. But often, like you were saying, buyers are going to make the assumption, I got to get this paid off. We can't buy a house until we get this paid off. Pay it, close it, so that the lender's going to be happy with us, and they see their scores drop even further. So don't close it. Paying it off is not bad, but exactly what Hailey's saying here, the first thing you want to do is talk to your lender, talk to me. We're going to analyze that situation and find out what the right game plan is going to be. Even if you're a year out, this is when you want to start that conversation with your lender.
Absolutely, because then when you truly are ready, you are ready. Like, we can hit the ground running and get you a house in no time. But it's just, I've had the buyers come to me where they've been trying to get ready to buy and they've been renting, and now the landlord is selling. And now we're rushing to find a house in the nick of time, and it happens, and it sucks, and we deal with it as it comes. But had you known a year ago to start, they would have been in a much better place.
I totally agree. I completely agree. And again, the biggest theme that we have here, if you're a first-time home buyer, is don't make any sudden moves. Reach out to your lender, talk to us first. Talk to Hailey. Hailey will, first thing she's going to do is call me and say, I've got a buyer. I want you to look at their situation, help them get the best rate they can possibly get. And that's not going to happen if you just jump in and do some things that might seem obvious. Paying off collections. You would think, all right, I should pay my collection counts off, right? Maybe. And again, there's a difference between what you should do morally for what you agreed to pay your debts. I'm not suggesting you should not pay your obligations, but don't necessarily assume you know the priorities of which ones to pay first, how much of each one to pay. At some point, you may want to do that. But if we're going to be selfishly here, we want to help you get a house and manipulate those scores to your advantage. It's important to know how the game works, because the algorithms don't work the way everybody thinks. When I say algorithms, I mean how a credit report score is actually generated.
Well, that and understanding that how a credit report scores for a mortgage and a car loan
Very,
is
very
completely different.
Yeah, which is so confusing. My family's heard me say this 1,000 times on the phone, and that my daughter could recite it. She's 18 years old, and she could tell you the whole thing, word for word. But everyone needs to know that when you have a credit report pulled for a mortgage, it's all still coming from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. If you go get a car loan, it's going to be one of those three or maybe two. And it depends on what bank they're shopping. A student loan, again, all coming from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Credit cards, same thing. So why is the score different? It's a different industry. And each industry is going to be a different algorithm when we request that report. So when I ask for a credit report, it's called a tri-merge, which is all three. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get all three scores, but 9 times out of 10 we do. And once we have that score, it's a mortgage credit score. It would not be the same if you were looking at companies like Credit Karma. Credit Karma gets a bad rap. I hear this all the time that, they're always wrong, scores are always wrong. No, they're not. It's just being provided to you for a different reason. It's not a hard pull.
I think Credit Karma is the most accurate of them out there.
I think they do a very good job with it. It's a little tricky when you sign up. If you are going to sign up for one of these free services, I don't necessarily recommend you go to Credit Karma. I would go to annualcreditreport.com. That's a free credit report. It will not give you your credit scores. If you want to pay extra, you can get those credit scores. Not really necessary for what we're talking about today. Just getting a copy of that free report so that you can see the content that's there. And then we can establish a game plan. So if I saw a collection account that is 5 or 6 years old, I'm going to probably say, don't touch that right now. Especially if it's small, maybe $300, or leave it alone. And then we'll take a look at where can we build on your scores. Because if you pay that old collection off, you may actually renew the score, the dates on that. And it's more recent activity. So I think even Credit Karma will tell you if you don't want to pay it off, don't interact with the creditor, because now you're going to start that information being reported with fresher dates on your credit report.
And it's also important to know that what you might tell one buyer is totally different from what you would tell another buyer, because it's entirely situational.
That's my favorite word. It's every situation is different.
And so an example to you buyers who are listening is, if you have a friend who just got pre-qualified and they were told to do this, don't assume that you should do that too. Because that worked for them because of their situation. But your situation is not their situation.
So I'm old, you're young. If we had the exact same late payment on a credit report from a credit card, my credit score may not take as big of a hit as yours. You may take a bigger hit because you're younger, you have maybe fewer things. And I'm not talking about fewer things like my debt's paid off. So if my debt's paid off, why is it not hitting me? I have no debt, you have no debt. Why is it making a big deal? It's longer history. So it's different credit depth. There's been different things over the years. And then having everything paid off 100% gets you kind of completely off the grid too, where lenders need to make a decision knowing that you can have access to credit without getting yourself into trouble too, without using it wisely, using it for what it was designed for. Credit cards really were designed for convenience and emergencies, and not to live on. Some people live on it, they use it to get the points. I get it, but you're not necessarily doing yourself a favor with your credit score. And where I find I have bigger trouble, most young customers such like yourself really get it. The older ones don't. Like, I don't understand. This isn't fair. I'm talking like an old fuddy-duddy now. I don't understand. Well, because they're not really taking into account what's happened in the past and why those algorithms had to tighten it down a little bit. And so it's real important to know how that game works before, because some of my best customers that are really well qualified say, I don't need to check with Steve now. I'll wait until next year when we're ready to purchase. But gosh, if they looked at it right now and we were to look at it and say, well, you might be seeing 800 on Credit Karma, but you're a 706 with a mortgage credit report based on how you're utilizing it and getting all those points. If I can help tweak that a little bit, your mortgage insurance might be better. Your interest rate might be better. Don't wait until the 11th hour and then have that surprise that it's going to cost you more.
Yeah, and the best advice that I've gotten, I think, well, from you, but also just from being in the industry and using your credit card, is use your credit card like a debit card. So use it like you have the money in your bank account and pay it right away. And use it how you normally do. And then you gave advice as well. Charge $25 to your credit card every other month and then pay it off right away. Because you also don't want to get stuck in the loophole of making it look like you need to use that credit card
Bingo.
to afford things.
You were paying attention.
I do listen.
You were paying attention. This is good, because that's exactly it. If you have a credit card, it has no balance on it. You owe nothing. Let's say it's got a $300 available balance.
Yeah.
I always use $25. I know there's some that'll say they figure out the 25%, how much of that you can actually utilize. Don't trap yourself into that, because it's too easy to go a few dollars over,
Yes.
or have one day of interest add on and it pushes it over. Just $25.
And stop making minimum payments, because stop.
Yeah.
Like, nobody likes to pay off debt.
Yeah.
We don't. But if you're making minimum payments for 2 years, you've already paid off your debt in
Right.
interest.
That's right. And
So-
it's important, because what will end up happening is a lot of buyers that are doing this, they're really trying to do the right thing.
They
and
are,
they
yeah.
get 10 times angrier when they find it's not going well.
It's like you're making the minimum payment every single month for 2 years, but what you owe isn't changing.
Even there's another weird thing that will happen too. So let's say, using that example, you have a $300 card, and all you do is use it for gas. And you pay it in full every single month. And sometimes you pay it even before the bill even comes due. You just want to get it out of the way. And that's very responsible. You're using it, you're paying it off in full, you've had no late payments ever, and you see your scores going down. What is going on? Buyers get upset when I say, go out and get a secured credit card if no one will give you any credit. Give them $300. I think Capital One's been a great one, where you give them $300, they give you a line of credit for $300, and you utilize it. Just put $25 on it and do it every other month. And the purpose of this is you never want to go over that 50% utilization, because it's a snapshot in time. You never know when that TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian are updating those scores. So the fact that you pay it in full every month, it could also be argued that you max it out every month too. And if you're using it every month, now, is it an income? Because some people do become dependent on it over time, because they realize, well, thank God I got to pay that off, because I'm going to need it again next month for gas.
I think
Gotta
my
be
big
careful.
frustration lately is that I switched to a new bank, and I love the bank that I'm at, but I noticed that I get more fraud alerts when I'm trying to use my card for real estate purchases, for example, like marketing, things like that, that I am physically trying to purchase. So I'm forced to use my credit card, because my debit card won't go through. That's my big problem. And it hasn't affected me negatively, which is a good thing, but it's just one of those things where make sure, if that happens and you have to do it, make sure you have the money in your debit account to pay it off right away.
Right.
Don't overextend yourself there, because you're going to regret it. But also, when it comes to shopping for a new credit card, look for a card that's going to also work for you and has benefits that the more you use it and the more consistent you are with it, the more benefits you get, whether it's traveling points, whatever it may be, because it also makes it more exciting.
Yeah, and there's another, I wouldn't call it a trick, that it's just buyers are, they're nervous, and for a first-time buyer, or it's your first credit card, or you've had perhaps poor credit and you get that first credit card. I'm not suggesting whether you should get one with or without an annual fee. Preferably no annual fee would be great, but it's not that easy if you've had credit troubles or you're new at it.
Yeah.
But be very careful, because a lot of customers have gone out and they get that credit card approved. What they don't realize, since they've never used it, that they may have been charged an annual fee right up front. So you actually owe money on that credit card, not knowing that you do. There's nothing worse than that when you're trying to establish credit, and the first thing you do is have a derogatory on it.
Yeah.
That's the kiss of death when you're with your scores. That will kill your mortgage credit score.
Yeah.
So pay very close attention to not only how to log in online and look at that account and monitor it, but when you also pay off something too, be very careful that the timing of that payoff could have perhaps meant a few dollars more in interest. A quick example, I had somebody last year that paid off a credit card, a couple $100, that's all he owed on it. And when they paid it off, we're all set. I even had a statement that showed a zero balance. What they didn't realize is the timing of the statement versus when the interest hit, there was $10 in interest. And they didn't touch it for months, didn't get any notifications, didn't have a clue that they still owed money on it. That was a huge problem. That $10 late payment was 100 points in their credit score.
That's crazy.
While they were trying to buy a house.
Yeah.
And that was horrible.
Yep.
Keep in mind, when you credit, everybody knows you got to pay your bills on time, right? But pay attention to what you do have for open and active accounts, and just monitor those accounts so you know that it's not being used.
Well, when you pay it off, log back in after 2 weeks just to make sure.
Exactly.
Just to make sure. Don't just pay it off and forget it.
Yeah.
Double check it.
I didn't get a bill is not a reason to not pay your bill.
No.
Yeah, you have to monitor. It's your responsibility to make sure it's there. So the class was amazing. I saw a lot of hands going up. There was a lot of interaction with the questions. We had even my boring section when we have to talk about lending, which is super boring. There was a lot of really questions surrounding that.
Don't discredit yourself. That was not boring.
I didn't say necessarily me. I'm not boring. Am I boring? But what can be really boring, though, is we start talking the credit and we start talking about some of the...
But it's important. But was it boring to them?
No, it was not.
It wasn't.
Yeah, they really found it.
It was entirely useful.
Yeah,
it was.
What Hailey and I pride ourselves in the most is being resources for folks. So I love being the person that people come to say, how does this work? Why are they asking me for this? What do I need to do here? What's the first steps? I love that part of my job. And
we're always completely unscripted, and I love that because
that's why we mess up here all the time. but it's real world, and I appreciate you saying that because I say it on a lot of shows, and for me, that's so important because I will not sit through somebody just reading off the speech.
No, and here's the thing: is that I got into the business to build relationships and to grow relationships. That is the core value that I have in my career. And that's the core value that I stem all of my goals from, is that building and growing relationships. And in order to do that, I mean, I have my own office where it is extremely cozy. Like I even have a little bin for kids.
Do you really?
I do, for toys for kids, because
I didn't see that.
Sometimes
toys and
parents have to bring their children, and there are some appointments where I have Netflix in my office, so I mean, we could absolutely put Cocomelon on or whatever you want, or Bluey, whatever it might be for your kids, but sometimes I need to airplay and show things, so I have those toys and books available in that case. But the coziness, I want people to feel like I'm a friend.
Yeah.
Like I don't want it to feel like this super cold, scripted, transactional experience, whereas when it's unscripted, whether we're face-to-face or I'm teaching a course, it's like you're talking to a friend.
Yeah.
It's more casual, it's not overwhelming, it's not off-putting, it's not cold, it's so warm, but it's also professional. And
I've listened to you, and this is genuine, because that's what's also so important to me is I want it to be a good experience, and it's hard. Closing a home loan is not easy. It's not going to be fun, but it doesn't have to be horrific. It can be an experience that is good.
It can,
and
it should be fun and exciting, and that's why I'm always cracking jokes and trying to make my clients laugh, and I'm learning what makes them laugh, you know? Is it these stupid corny jokes, or is it just me making an ass of myself?
Yeah, and that's usually what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm the guy that always makes the joke that everyone's like, huh? I don't understand. But the fun that we have with it is also as equally as important as, let me slow down. I used to teach this to loan officers, but we used to sit in a conference room and we'd have a phone in the middle of the room, and I would call our competitors and would say, all right, I'm the customer, everybody shh. And we would talk, and we would have hey, can you tell me your interest rate today? And someone would say, sure, we're at whatever. And they'd give us the interest rate. I'm like, thank you, hang up. All right, what did they just do wrong? They gave me an interest rate. They don't know my situation. They have no clue. They didn't ask me any questions. Or we'd get somebody that say, well, I need to know more information. Okay. And then it would be name, address, phone number, social security number, date of birth. It's really boring.
They just want to know how to contact you back.
That's really all they're doing. Yeah. And so they really don't even know how to field the questions yet. I got to wait for the software to pop up so I can answer your question. That's not what I want to work with either. So when our clients talk to, they always have a conversation with me first. We'll get to know their situation. I want to know as much as possible and ask the questions in a way that doesn't actually feel like an application. It feels more just getting to know that client, because every single customer is different. And the fact that I'm thinking, oh, they got to go Maine State Housing, or they've got to go FHA, or whatever my thought process is not going to be accurate until I know the entire situation. And sometimes it's more than one option. And
it is. And you learn so much more about your clients when you have the conversations with open-ended questions versus simple yes or no questions. Because anybody can say yes or no, but when you're having a conversation, it allows the person on the other end to actually get comfortable and to really want to talk to you and get a feel for you. And they don't always see it, but I'm always smiling on the other end of the phone because not that I sound mean naturally, but I know, I'm terrible. But it's just, you sound so much nicer and warmer when you're smiling behind the phone. And it's something that I've always been good at. Thank God. I didn't need to learn that, but I've always been pretty good at that, which has helped me build those relationships faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And secure that trust faster is the smiling, the warmth, the letting them know, and the reassurance that this is your journey. We are on your timeline, not mine. So let me know what you need and what you're looking for and where you're at. And I'm going to meet you where you're at. Like, this isn't my race to be had. This isn't my journey to be had. We're doing this for you. So yeah, I'm working for you. And yeah, I want to close. I need to make money all day long, but not at the expense of your wants and needs.
That's so important. My wife says this to me all the time. You work harder to make sure that people are happy than worried about getting paid. Like, well, it's good karma. So, okay, then when do we get paid? But,
and I get pushback a lot on that too. And it's like, what do you mean? Well, what I mean is that I know that this is a referral business. This isn't a one and done business. If it's a one and done business, I'm going to cap in no time.
Yeah.
I'm going to cap in no time.
Yep. This is a career. It's not a job. It's a career.
Yes.
What's jobs stand for?
Yeah.
Just over broke. Yeah, this is a career. So we've chosen it, and we're doing what we're doing because we want folks to genuinely be happy. But as corny as it sounds, and this is starting to turn into a little bit of a sales pitch, which we got to get off this. But it's no, I'm not interested in the one transaction from customers. It's that next one.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get that unless you're doing the right thing.
No, and I also want to point out that for us to always be non-scripted, especially in a 2-hour course that we're teaching, we've got to be well-versed in
you have to.
In the industry.
Yeah.
So we are very well-versed, which makes it a lot easier for us to be unscripted.
Sure.
And guaranteed, we mess up. We're human. It's just kind of part of it. But this is what you get when you work with me too. You know, I stutter sometimes. My brain thinks faster than my mouth can go sometimes. I
know, it's so hard for me to sit in this chair and talk to people because my brain's in my butt. I got to get up and walk around so it's working.
My brain's going a mile a minute and I just can't keep up with the words sometimes. And it's okay. It's okay, but it's fine. And I loved how at the end of the course that we taught that the first feedback was a question, but before he asked the question, he was just like, first of all, I want to thank you so much because I didn't want to come to this morning.
I remember who you were
but I'm so glad that I did. And he was just like, this was well put on. This was extremely professional. You're very well spoken. So thank you so much for bringing this to us. And that made me feel really good. And then we also got... Again? I am going to do it again. Right. I'm going to do it quarterly. So 4 homebuyer courses a year. But on top of that, I also want to bring even more classes to the Lewiston, Auburn area. So I'm currently working on a class about investing. And not just investing and throwing your money into investing, but investing smart. And having a purpose behind it, wanting the cash flow. What do you look at? And that's where you have a good realtor like me and a great lender to help you like you. Sift through that. And I also have a class that I'm working on about the new build, everything from purchasing land to building a house, whether it be with a construction loan at a bank or it be a turnkey build.
Right.
So all of those options. And then another course, which is in the works as well, is all about trades. And just, we talk about being the source and having our consumers come to the source, which is us in our connections. And we talk about referrals, but there's something to be said about consumers being able to connect personally with those trades.
Right.
And seeing them and meeting them and allowing them to learn more and understand the value that, you know, water treatment service has, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, home renovators. So just everything like that. Anybody's needs that they could ever want.
They're not easy to find, so that's going to be a valuable service because I know that in my particular case, I think we talked about at the beginning of the show, I'm having such a difficult time getting contractors and top agents like yourself. That's the reason why I'm having a hard time getting hold of them because they're working, they're helping you.
Yeah.
And so having that kind of a resource for people would be amazing.
It is amazing, and it's incredible to have people where when you're in a bind, they're there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Hailey. I'm really
you.
enjoying this today. So I'm actually really excited that you are going to be doing more classes.
Yeah.
Every quarter.
Yep. I will be known as the course queen in the Lewiston Auburn area. That is my goal. So
I think that's an okay term. I think we can get away with that.
Yeah.
You're listening to Maine Real Estate Today. Guys, if you like the show, please like and subscribe. Throw a comment down, too. If you have any shows you'd like us to do or anything in the future you want us to talk about, we're always happy to hear your comments and build a show based on that. So thank you again, and thank you, Hailey.
Yeah, thank you.